Good morning. This is Jay Rovert, founder and director of the R&B Group, one of the top business networking groups in the Northeast. And I wanted to introduce you to somebody, a very, very special guest, Mr. Michael J. London, founder and president, CEO of Michael J. London and Associates. And Michael, we met about 11 years ago at a B&I group. And I'm pleased to say for 4 months, you wouldn't even look at me. And it was so amusing that whatever it was, he didn't like my face, didn't like my beard at the time, whatever it was. And somehow 4 or 5 months down the road, we caught up with each other, we got friendly. And I'm here to say in my business career, stretching back to the late 70s, Michael is by far the most loyal business person I have ever met as a person, business partner, and everything else. And Michael, I've gone over your background, and I was hoping you could give us a little bit about your youth and then maybe going into your early career. I know your dad was a journalist, so why don't you give us a brief sketch of how you started and what's sort of the early influences of what you're doing in your business?
Well, first, thanks very much, Jay. I just wanted to point out that you have been a financial advisor to me for a very long time. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that you're the guy to go see when it's time to deal with your financial affairs. I started as I started going to the University of Connecticut, undergraduate, Rensselaer graduate. And I became a journalist because of my father, I think. My father was a editor at the Waterbury Republican American, and I can remember going into the building with him and watching the excitement and going into the wire room and listening and watching the teletype machines with news from around the world. And I think I ended up getting ink in my veins as a result.
Sure.
So I graduated from UConn with a degree in communications, and my first job was as a reporter. Went from the small paper in Waterbury, where I started, went to the Hartford Courant thereafter, was a number of years there, and then went into public relations, primarily because my wife said, bylines are nice, but they don't buy groceries, and can you get a real job?
Well, Mike, back when you were a reporter, any interesting breakthroughs that you covered that would have been of interest to the public, that would have been interesting to people today?
Well, let's see. I did a lot of things that were fun. I went out on a nuclear submarine in the Atlantic Oceans.
Yeah.
I went out on a Coast Guard icebreaker in the middle of winter. I did some investigative work, uncovering some corruption with a real estate dealer who was not all up and up with corruption in a police department. So did a lot of fun things, but eventually left to go into public relations. My first job in public relations was at Northeast Utilities. I was the guy who got out in front of the cameras to say, it's good to pay more for your electricity. Here's why. And stayed there for a few years and then went on to another public relations job, founded my own business in 1990, and have had lots of fun ever since.
Yes. And, you know, the idea of you're going from the corporate arena, first in reporter, corporate arena, and now going into your own business, that must have been a little scary.
It still is.
Yes.
It's always scary. At first it was scary. Am I ever going to be able to get a client? And then it was
and Mike, how did you land your first iconic account?
Well, that's an interesting question, because my first account and almost all of my accounts thereafter have been referrals, word of mouth.
Fascinating.
Through you and your connections, your group.
Thank you.
But it's almost all been through word of mouth.
Wow.
And it's worked out. It's still scary. It started out, am I going to be able to get a client, to am I going to be able to keep getting clients?
And who was your first substantial client that sort of put you on the map?
First client was a joint venture between Dow Chemical and United Technologies that manufactured aircraft parts.
Yep.
And I'm still very involved with the aircraft industry, but have branched out into multiple other industries
Is there still an
since.
aircraft industry?
It's limping along. It's
Limping
limping
along.
along. I think it'll come back in a couple of years, but
I hope so.
it's yeah, it's fascinating. I enjoy what I do. I find it fascinating, particularly because we're involved in so many different industries and so many different
Tell me
types
about
of
a couple.
businesses. Well, let's see. We've got a law firm that works in medical malpractice, uh, really serious, egregious cases.
Uh,
We're still involved in aerospace with companies that are making parts for jet engines. We did a lot with Exxon Chemical for a long time, internal communications. We did a company magazine. We've worked with politicians. We've worked with, right now we're
that
working.
that was so cool. You would always come into our meetings. Number one, the B&I group. I hate to go back there, but it's interesting. You'd always show every time 4 articles you put in the newspaper, and then every 6 months we can count on you to bring in an interesting Connecticut politician to address our group, which I really, really enjoyed.
Well, I've made a lot of strong connections over the years with lots of different kinds of people,
Yep.
including, I've met a couple of presidents, lots of state politicians, but
Mike,
my,
can I back up there just a second?
sure.
How did you feel when you met a president? People say, even though they know they're just regular people, but when you get close to them, the office, et cetera, how did that feel?
Well, it felt very different with each president, but depending on their personality. With Bill Clinton, I've never met anyone with such incredible
Yeah,
magnetism. He made
yeah.
you feel like you were the only one in the world at that moment, and he really wanted to hear what you had to say. Ronald Reagan was like talking to a grandfather.
Yeah.
Uh, so it was different with each one.
Yes.
George Bush was surprisingly interesting and surprisingly interested in hearing what you had to say. Uh, so
That's catches me by surprise a bit.
yeah, yeah, it was. It's been fun. It's been fun.
Sure.
It, it's been a lot of years. So we've met a lot of people and developed a lot of very close relationships
Yep.
with lots of folks in the news media, which makes my job much easier because I can call people up and say, I've got a story that you might be interested in. Talk to me. And I think it's important to point out that public relations today is not just print. It's not just newspapers. It's certainly still print, but it's also broadcast. But very, very important today is the internet and social
Sure.
media. Uh,
Mike, how has COVID affected you, your business, and also your view on the world, and going forward? Please talk to us.
sure, COVID has affected some clients more than others.
Yep.
Uh, some clients are having a very tough time, the aerospace folks, for example. Others keep doing okay. Um, all of the people who work for me are now working from their homes. And that's very odd. It took some
Sure.
time to get used to. It's now a number of months already, obviously. So that took a lot of time to get used to, and I don't know that I'm still comfortable with it. I
I,
like the human interaction. I like being able
yes.
to wad up a piece of paper and throw it to somebody on the other side of the room.
Sure.
Uh, you know, I, so it's tough. It's tough,
And
but we still get the work done, and we have Zoom calls like this one all the time.
yep.
It's a weird world we live in now.
Mike, you've been coming to the R&B group for the last 10 years. How about telling us a little bit about your experiences and why you almost always make time for our group? I know you're a very busy guy. We even in the old days, the old timey days, like from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, we were having them every 6 weeks, and now we're having them every 3. Talk to me. Tell me why, how, and who you've met, but why you're so loyal, why you come and contribute all the time, always trying to help people out there.
That's a real easy question to answer. Uh, First of all, I like meeting the people that you have introduced to the group. They're always interesting. Uh, but more than that, I've signed up a few clients as a result of your group, and that's really what it's all about. Clients who have been referred to me through people in the group, as well as one or two actual members of the group.
That's
So of course, why wouldn't I go?
that a great example of money talks, bullshit walks, which is one of my favorite expressions, more important than ever today, knowing the extra dangers we face in our everyday life.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I like now, even more than when we were meeting in person, is the opportunity to meet people from all over the country.
Yes.
I think that's just terrific. And again, these are all people that you have vetted. These are all people that are really
Michael, do
interested.
I vet anybody? I didn't know that.
Yeah, right. Uh-huh. These are all people that are inherently interesting to begin with. So even if there's no chance I'm going to end up doing business with someone, one or more of these people, they're interesting to talk to. They're fun to
Yes,
talk to.
that's
So
talented, nice people who want to share. Well,
exactly. How could I not want to participate?
Michael, how about in a wrap up? How about a couple final comments of what you want to say about yourself, whether it's family, whether it's when you're younger, just a little wrap up so we know a little bit more about you, maybe something I don't know.
Boy, I think you know a lot about me, having listened to me rant and rave about this, that, and the other thing for so many years. Bottom line is, I'm looking to meet new people. I'm looking to connect with people from around the country. As for me, I still think of myself as a Yukon person, even though my
Yeah,
graduate degree was from
ditto.
Rensselaer. I had have great memories and had great times there. I'm very loyal, as you point out, to Yukon,
Yeah.
and been married for quite a number of years. We have one son who's now 35 and living in Connecticut for the first time in many years since he
A
graduated.
mitzvah. Whoa, that's nice.
Yeah, yeah, it's nice having him around. It's nice being able to call him up and say, there's something on a high shelf I need you to get. He's 6'5", and I am
Yes,
clearly not.
that's a good
So
good side
it's
product of it.
nice. I
Uh,
appreciate this opportunity, Jay.
Well, Mike, we really appreciate it. And loyalty, loyalty, loyalty. You are that person. And I mean, going back to the late 70s, I've never met anybody like you in
Ah,
terms of how serious you take that, especially since the first couple of months we didn't talk. And now I found you so really such a great guy, loyal in my business, professional, and networking life. And thank you so much, Mike, for taking the time out to do
of
this little
course, of
interview.
course. I just want to point out that it takes time for me to develop a relationship with somebody. I'm not going to become loyal the first time I meet somebody, as you have attested.
Yes.
I want to see who they are and see what
Yep.
it is, see where their heart is, where their head is, and only after that can I feel like this is somebody I want to connect with and remain connected with, and develop a long-term friendship with.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate. I know you're a very busy guy. Appreciate you being open, honest, and revealing. Thank you so much, Mike.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. And look forward to seeing you virtually at the next meeting.